What is up, humans? Thank you for joining me on this episode of Scarlett Letter Show number 83. I'm your host, Scarlett Santa Maria, and tonight I have the local house music DJ and founder and ministress of Church of Music, which is a weekly service experience where people celebrate love as their faith, music as their religion, and dancing as their practice. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to have you. You've done so much with Church of Music, especially during the pandemic, and I'm so excited to hear your story. And before we get into the interview, we're gonna play some Jenga. And you can go first, because you're my guest. You know how to play Jenga, right?
I think I've played once, twice.
If you could give me an autograph.
Oh. Let's see.
And then you just place the piece on top.
Great.
All right, so I want to know, how was little Alina like? What were you like when you were a kid, when you were like in middle school? What were your interests?
As a kid, I was very energetic and loved music. I mean, I started dancing before I could walk.
Oh,
literally out of my mom's womb. And I started playing piano when I was 5, and then classically trained on the piano for about 10 years. And then grew up in Ukraine, born and raised in Ukraine, and then my family immigrated to Boston when I was 9, and then grew up there for 14 years. We'll be Pakaka and Harvard Yard.
Wow, 14 years. I actually moved here when I was 12, and I know it can be...
From where?
From Tijuana.
Tijuana.
Mm-hmm. And I know it can be such a culture shock when you're a kid.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
It was interesting. So I used to be actually quite bullied. In Ukraine, I was bullied because they used to call me Jew and go back to Israel, and I was like, where's Israel and why are you calling me Jewish?
Yeah, oh wow.
And then when we immigrated to the US, it was Russian, go back to Russia, and I'm like, I'm from Ukraine, why are you sending me back to Russia?
Yeah.
So I had a pretty tough childhood in that sense, especially being who I am. I'm very extrovert, and I love people, and I enjoyed, always being surrounded by people. And I think just being put through such tumultuous and I would say very tough childhood, it definitely gave me the strength and got me to a place where I am today, where I think I went through something most people don't go through most of their lives, which is accepting who I am for what I am and not worrying about so much what anyone else thinks about me.
When did you make that choice for yourself?
I was about 16 and I was suicidal. And so I thought, you know what, either kill myself or just accept myself for who I am, not care what anyone else thinks. I know what I have to offer. I know that I have a lot of love to give, and I care about people and animals. Animals were actually my saviors. They were my angels while I was growing up. My best friends. That's why I have such a love and care for pets even today, or actually any kind of animal, which is part of the reason that I became vegetarian, vegan.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
A long time ago, yeah. So that's kind of my...
I feel you on those early teenage years. I had my moments. My friends were not going through it. They were fighting a lot during those years, and it was rough. I'm an only child, so I had to kind of deal with that. I was always in the middle. It was really rough. I feel like teenage years were some of the hardest years of my life.
But it also makes you who you are today.
Yeah.
And so, it's like...
It makes you resilient.
Exactly. And I feel, a lot of times it is tough, and going through that is rough, as a child especially. But I think we're very lucky to be able to experience that, because it makes us who we are in today's world. And a lot of times I feel like people choose to show and be different than what they've experienced.
Yeah, and it makes you more empathetic.
Exactly, that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
When you feel so much pain and hurt, and you get bullied or hurt early on in your life, a lot of times people turn empathetic, and so they start caring and they bring more love to the world.
I love that. Wow. Oh, I can definitely relate. Oh yeah, it's getting. Oh, there you go. Okay, going for the very end.
Hot in
here, yes. All right. So tell me about how you started your journey in the music industry. Did you go like straight to DJing, or did you do what did you do first? Dancing?
Yeah. So. Like I mentioned, I started playing piano when I was 5, and when we immigrated to the US, I continued studying piano. I ended up getting 2 teachers, not one. One that would practice with me pretty much daily for 3 hours, and another that just took me on as her student. She always picked one student that she thought had talent, and she just wanted to take on, free of charge kind of thing. So she picked me. And so I had 2 teachers, and my mom used to take me an hour and a half each way, twice a week for one, and the other one would just come over and study piano with me daily. So by 12 I was playing, conservatory level type pieces. Except that it wasn't something that I loved in a sense. It was very stressful for me. So in my last
Just put it back.
Not gonna take that one. Not going for that one. This stuff makes me very stressed out. I don't know why people play this. This is not fun. This is just stressful. Who created this game?
Right? Oh, you went back for it.
And what were they on?
We're seeing the dark side of Alina right now.
I also am very competitive, which comes out in these games, but I also get super stressed out. So it's not a good combination. Do you have other games we can play?
This is the one.
All right.
There you go. Oh Lord. Ooh, holding on to dear life, bro.
My last performance, I basally walked out and I covered in hives from the stress of performing.
Oh my God,
and
that's terrible.
A big, 200-person show. Anyways, I did the show, and I just was like, I'm never touching piano ever again in my life. And I didn't touch, piano for the next 4 years or 5. And then eventually I got back into it because I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna play from my heart.
Without any rules.
Yeah,
just do it for fun.
Exactly. So then I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna improvise. So I started, so I was always into music and art and dancing, and eventually about 2015 I went on my most incredible New Year's trip of my life.
Ooh, where at?
To Tulum with this organization called Our Habitats, and I spent a whole week with
I was just there actually
with my favorite DJs to this day: Goldcap, Sabo, Oceanus Orientalis, and just amazing DJs that truly spoke to my heart with their music.
Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky enough to be in the room right next to them, and we spent like a few nights, just hanging out, chatting, getting to know each other. And I think that was the turning point for me, where I was like, I'm gonna learn to DJ.
Nice.
I want to learn how to create. Yeah, I was like, I want to share music with the world. And so the next couple of years, I was just looking for friends that could teach me. And eventually I found a friend of mine who played really awesome Balkan music. And he turned out to be Ukrainian by chance as well. And I was like, wow, I love your music. I really want to learn. And he's like, come over, I'll teach you. I'm like, really?
What?
He's like, what? It's like 4 years into like my, wanting to learn. So I went over, and like 2 hours later, I was playing on Tractor, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. DJing is not the hard part. DJing, I can teach anyone to DJ in a couple hours. The hard part is finding the music and creating the story.
Yeah, exactly.
And creating that atmosphere. And for me, it just kind of comes naturally just because I've spent most of my life learning and understanding music as a child. This is just torture. You guys like the torture, don't you?
Yes. Wow! It's time for Miss Alina to spin the wheel of misfortune.
Misfortune?
And here is the cup of dare. Just pick one and let's see.
So exciting. All right. I have to kiss a boy. Yell out the first word that comes to your mind. Love.
Oh, that was cute. It's all about love. I love it. All right, and speaking of love and things that you love too, tell me how you got started with Church of Music. How did the idea originated, the vision?
Yeah, I was doing a bunch of side hustles. But one thing that happened to me once I started learning to DJ was I couldn't get any gigs. And it was always, even friends of mine that were throwing their parties, it would be like, hey, can I start? Can I open? Can I get involved? Anything. How long you been DJing? A year or two. Go practice. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I kept asking and I kept trying and, and it's really, you can practice at home, but really you need time on the dance floor in front of people because you can be an amazing DJ in your bedroom, but the moment you're live
that's different.
With an audience, it's a whole different story. And I quickly realized that it's very much of a man's world and it's a big boys network. And I get not triggered, but those kind of things ignite me. And I get to a place where, let me show you.
Yes.
I'll go practice, no problem. And then COVID happened and nothing was going on. And for me, music is my religion. It's always been my religion. I literally had a fake ID when I was 16 just to go to a club, not because I wanted to drink. I never bought alcohol. I've never purchased alcohol in my life. But it was because I wanted to dance. I needed music and I had to dance every week. And I'd go 5-6 times a week, from the moment the club opened till the 2 a.m. by myself on stage, leave me alone. I just want to dance and I need music. That was my religion.
I'm in my zone. Okay.
I'm in my flow state. Don't mess with it. Anyway, so COVID's happened, everything shut down, and I'm literally climbing walls. And I tried doing the online thing, but it was just not feeling the same. And I love being in nature. And it was always kind of a dream of mine to do an event at Gliderport in La Jolla. And I was like, why not try? Let's, I might go to jail. I'm willing to take that risk. I'm okay with that. If I go to jail today for breaking every single, law that's been put out there, then that's fine. And 5 of my friends were going to have a picnic and watch the sunset there. I'm like, I borrowed 2 tiny little speakers, a generator that a friend of mine made that's battery operated, and my small little setup and the green blanket to totally just blend in with the grass. And so we're there.
Incognito mode.
Exactly. And so I'm literally sitting on the grass, sweating my everything off, and my heart's about to jump out of me. And I'm like, I'm going to jail and it's totally fine. And I'm playing the sunset set and my friends are sitting a mile away from me because they're like, she's going to jail and we don't know her. That's fine.
I don't know her.
Yeah, exactly. And it was, nothing happened. I just played and nobody came and nobody complained. And I was like, And instead, I got a bunch of calls and texts, and they're like, Alina, where are you? I want to come see you. That sounds amazing. Party? Yeah. Not a party, but it wasn't a party. It was really about just enjoying a sunset, listening to good music, and being outdoors, and truly just connecting with people. Because it was COVID, and it was everybody was starving for that connection and community and all that. So we did it again next week, and this time it was 20 people. And then we did it again next week, and then this time it was 50 people. And I just kept doing it week after week, and it just started growing organically without pushing anything, trying anything. I was like, don't tell anyone, guys, I don't want this to get out, you know? Like, it really was something from my heart that I truly just, for me, it was a religion. I needed music, I needed space to play, I wanted to be around beautiful people. And it was constantly a battle of, am I doing something wrong? You know, like, it is COVID.
Yeah.
Am I
How do
creating...
you get away with it? I remember the first one I went, it was closer to Christmas, and things were still pretty hot.
Yeah, so it was literally like a constant battle within my heart because I love and care for people and community. And honestly, a lot of people came up to me, wrote me messages, I still have those messages, telling me that I saved their lives. They were suicidal, they were lonely, this was the only thing that they were looking forward to. And the good thing for, or at least in my mind, was that it was always outdoors. People could still stay 6 feet apart, they could wear masks if they wanted to, they could stay all the way at the end, but it gave them the space to at least breathe fresh air, be in the sunshine, listen to music, and just feel normal even for that couple hours, you know? Just forget about the world and everything that was happening and just really unite and then raise our vibrations together. And so it just kept happening. And then eventually, I called it 6 feet apart at the beginning. And then eventually the cops showed up, you know, and they were like, hey, you can't be here. I'm like, well, technically, because of my previous life, I used to be in law. And I looked up that artists are allowed to present their art like they do in Balboa Park when they just show up. Exactly. So they're able to show up and present their art without gathering. And we never gathered. We didn't have an actual event. I didn't sell tickets. Like, it was just me showing up and presenting my art, and people just happened to be there.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Like, that's not okay. La, la, la. I'm like, okay. But what if this is my religion and if it's a church? He's like, oh yeah, then you can have all the people you want here.
Oh my God.
Like, oh, okay. So I'm like, all right, well then, Church of Music.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
And I kept talking to my friends, and you know, for us, it was, at first it was a joke. We were like, you know, it's a church of music, a church of music. I'm like, no, it actually is a church of music. Like, this is truly my church. I've never been religious. I never believed in God the way people believe in God. For me, my God was always love. And for me, community was always what I craved. And for me, giving back and leaving the earth better was always what I was about. Partially because of what I've been through in my life, and partially because I am so empathetic to people, to children, to animals. I've been involved with an organization called Corazón de Vida, and we support 10 orphanages in Baja, Mexico. Wow. And we support 500 kids, and we focus on education. And I did that before I even started church. I've been doing that for the past 10 years, you know? So it's not something that's new to me. It's not something that just like happened out of the blue and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, let's, you know, pretend like we're a church and pretend like, no, this is, it literally kind of, it was the most magical thing because all the things that I love and I care for all came together. So the ability to unite people, to play music, to dance, to be outdoors, and to give back. To me, it's so important to unite community and to do something so meaningful and so beautiful with it, because I feel like a lot of times, you know, you grow these huge communities or these big followings, but people don't do anything with it. I'm like, it's a responsibility, and you can change the world, even if it's just your community. You can help the homeless, you can help the people that are, you know, the brand new moms that are just having babies that don't have any. It takes the tribe, it takes the community. So why not use that for the good, for the betterment of society? Yeah. You know, as a leader, that's part of your responsibility. And so everything just started flowing, and I was like, oh my God, this is literally like everything. And so at that point, I'm like, you know, I'm gonna build this as a startup. This Church of Music, I am building it as a startup. And it was so funny, you know, basically in the last year and a half, we've had probably over 600 white men DJ reach out to us, letting us know that they're willing and able to start playing anytime. And one female DJ reached out this entire time. Oh, wow. And for me, it was super important about who I partnered with and connected with, because music industry in general, or, you know, art and entertainment industry is very ego driven, and it's extremely all about just get a bunch of people in, get a bunch of money, like keep going, it's like this really rough, egocentric society of community. And I want to show the world we can do something different. Like, it does not have to be that way. It can be from love. It can be with love, for the people, to the people, leaving the place a better. That's why it's super important for me, for people not to call it a party. It's not a party. It's not a rave. It's a service. It's a service for the people, by the people, to the people. And it truly is all encompassing. And I think why it took off so quickly and why people feel that love is because it's coming from my heart. It really is coming from the bottom of my heart. I'm not doing this to, become billionaires and whatever, which eventually I'm not, nobody knows where it's gonna go. But for me, it's truly about bringing the community together, raising our vibration and leaving the earth a better place on every level.
Wow, that was so beautiful. I can see how you're just radiating all that energy, all the positivity, your smile. I can tell that it's something so important to you. I'm it's getting in my feels right now because I feel that's how I feel about this platform, and it's so beautiful when you do something for the community and giving back and giving people that space to open up and be themselves. So I have so much love and respect for you, and I think it's amazing that you've been able to do this through the pandemic, during the times where despair and depression, I was definitely not in a good place, and I appreciate you sharing this. And I'm sure people are gonna love to hear all of this.
Thanks.
All right, and before we go on the next section of the show, I just want to give a big thank you to Seamless Podcast and Nest Codework for giving us this beautiful space to do this amazing work that we're doing. So thanks again, and let's get back to the show. The next section is the time capsule. We're late.
Okay, so this picture, in kindergarten in Ukraine, they pick one girl to be the Snow White kind of. Mm-hmm. That's the princess next to the snowman. And so I was picked to be the Snow White. And it was funny because that particular, I think, show event at the kindergarten, I was just sitting I just sat down, my legs were kind of spread apart, and my mom is sitting across, and it's a little, skirt dress, and my mom's like, put your legs together, put your legs together. I was I'm 5, I don't know, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, what do you mean? I'm just sitting comfortably. Why are you trying to change it up? It was really cute.
Aw, that's so adorable. I love it. Next picture.
Burning Man. So Burning Man is my home, my heart. Burning Man showed me what could be, what will be, what is possible with human people, with humanity in general. Mm-hmm. A lot of the ethos and a lot of things that I'm incorporating in Church of Music comes from Burning Man. Mm-hmm. So Burning Man is a culture of radical expression, radical self-reliance, radical community, radical gifting, just all the things that are so important and so loved, and just those are my 10 commandments. It's now 11 for us. Those are the things that I think will change the world and show the world what can be, because Burning Man basically runs with 100,000 people, strangers coming from all over the world, creating a city on the flat bed of desert in 1 week. And they create the most magical things you can, anything you can think
I've never been.
Anything you can imagine shows up there and beyond. And it's meant to stimulate your mind, your body, your soul. It changes. Before I went to Burning Man, I did 7 years of research on it. Wow. I talked to everyone that has ever been. And literally when people would ask about Burning Man, I would just tell them about it. They're like, you've been? I'm like, I've never been.
You want to be prepared, right?
But I felt like I have. And the first year I went, I was in shock, literally. I just got there and I was like,
was it close to what you had done? Nothing like it?
Nothing. And that's the thing. It's it's nothing you can prepare yourself for. It's nothing you can describe. It's nothing you can think of. You have to go. You have to go and experience it. So when I went, I'm like, it's really unfortunate that this only happens once a year at this one place for only 100,000 people. The world needs to experience this. The world should see this. And so I was like, one day maybe I can recreate like a Burning Man in the real world. Church of Music. And it's funny because so many people, without me saying anything, so many people will come up to me like, Alina, I feel like I'm at the burn. Alina, like, I feel like this is Burning Man. Alina, like, all these things. I'm like, oh my God, that's like so my heart. Yeah. So that's for me, Church of Music. The creative component of it is combining Burning Man, Cirque du Soleil, symphony, the classical piece of meat with electronic music, with ballet, with culture, with art. So just merging, so it becomes an experience rather than just a DJ standing there, you know, like,
of course. I want to give
music.
more than that.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story. And the next one.
So I was just walking in Little Italy, and I was working on my startup, my first startup, and there was this lady with a bunch of chickens, and I was like, can I hold your chicken? She's like, absolutely. And so I pick up this chicken, and the chicken literally just jumped up on my thing. He's like, all right, cool, we're chilling. And so it was just a beautiful time, and just my love for animals.
I love that. That's super cute. You look like you're having a blast.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Who is she? Damn.
That was actually on my friend's, for my friend's birthday. She invited me to go on her friend's yacht, and I actually DJ'd on that yacht. And then later on, this picture was used as my first
West Coast Weekender.
That's right. You did your research. This woman is amazing. That was the first gig I ever got for DJing, and it was because a friend of mine, a friend of a friend that basically taught me how to DJ, recommended me to this guy who now I love, and he's like my angel, Thomas. And Thomas is he's incredible. He's another person you should have in your show. And Thomas is like, hey, he never even heard my sets, nothing, you know, a friend of mine just sent him like a bleep of what I do. And he's like, do you want to come and play with me for yoga at West Coast Weekender? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. I show up to West Coast Weekender, and I'm like, there's two stages, the huge one and the little one. So I go to the little one, and I'm like, so when do I start? They're like, you're on the other stage. I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, you're over there. My first gig is on the huge stage with an insane sound system, and I'm playing with a trumpet, the drummer, and we had somebody else. I think it was like a saxophone player or something. And then me DJing for like 150 people that are like in the audience. Amazing. And I was basically the opener for the whole weekend. And I was like, OMG.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm like, I feel it. Let's go.
I was actually there too. They had me there. That was the first time that I led a panel discussion.
Wow. How cool.
That was really awesome because I had pretty much interviewed all the founders of West Coast Weekender.
Wow.
And they knew that I do this, and I was part of the panel discussion. That was a really good experience.
So awesome.
Yeah, look at us. That was our first.
Hey.
Bad bitches only. And last but not least.
So this is actually from probably 5th or 6th time of me running Church of Music. So this is us still being on the grass in Gliderport, and a friend of mine was like, hey, can we come and record you? We're featuring different artists. It was actually Harrison with House of Sunsets.
Oh, nice.
And they were like, hey, we're recording different artists and featuring different artists. We want to come and, you know, record you while you DJ. I'm like, yeah, sure, come. So they came and showed up, and then they took some photos, and they did like a live stream for me or something. I don't know.
That's beautiful.
That was like, a couple months into me doing Church of Music, and I was like just flying on high, and everybody was like, who is this chick and what is she on? I'm like, air and music.
High of life, okay?
Join me. It's all possible.
I love that. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing all these stories.
Thank you.
And now we're on to the next section, which is the human experience. All right, in this section, I'm going to ask you 6 questions that are related to self-awareness, how you see yourself, life, the world. And the first one is, for you personally, what makes life worth living?
Family. Family, being able to give back, being healthy, all the things that I'm blessed with on a daily basis makes me want to give back and create a better world or leave a better world than what I've found.
Beautiful. The next question is, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Ooh, not sharing your food. It's the funniest thing ever, but I am originally from Ukraine, and I think you can relate because I feel like Latin culture is very similar. We love sharing food and we love feeding people. And so for me, when you have a group of friends or if you go out and whatever, and people are like, oh, this is my food and that's your food. Like, are you starving? Are you like, did you never? Yeah. For me, it's about like, it just elevates the whole experience so much more. So the moment somebody doesn't share food, I'm like, you're out.
We can't be friends if you're not gonna share those hot Cheetos with me.
But it's funny because, you know, a lot of people, like, when they first meet me, they're like, she's crazy. By the end, like, if even my exes or relationships or whatever, they're like, Alina, you've shown me something I've never experienced in my life. Like, I will never be the same person. I will share my food with everyone.
I love that.
Me too.
Yes, share your food, people.
Share your food, people.
And next question is, when you look into the past, what do you miss the most?
My dad and my grandmother, they passed.
Oh, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm really close to my dad too.
Yeah. Family, you know, so just my grandmother, used to call her like my mom. And then it would have been amazing for my dad to be present today to see the things that I'm building and to be a part of it.
Well, I'm sure wherever his spirit is, he's so happy to see you, what you've accomplished. Right, the next question, what's the best, I know, right? I know, we get deep here. What's the,
open hearts.
I know. This is what empath to empath does,
yeah.
You know? We're just like getting, like, I can feel it, I feel you too. What is the best decision you've ever made?
The best decision I've ever made? Probably going for my global MBA program, because I feel like that spiraled out to everything I am today and everything that I'm building. It basically gave me the base. I mean, everything in my life has, you know, somehow contributed to where I am today, but I feel like the MBA program truly took me to a different level.
The London one or the Hong Kong one?
So it's a joint degree program between London Business School, Columbia University, and Hong Kong University.
Oh, okay.
So it's all 3 schools, and then you graduate from 3 schools with 3 MBAs. But it's really,
super woman over here.
I mean, if you're gonna go for one, why not get 3?
Go big or go home.
Exactly. It's always been my thing, you know. Like I went from, it's funny, I did a San Francisco marathon. Prior to that, I've never ran more than 3 miles in my life. It's kind of my thing. Like I love a challenge.
Yes, you have to get yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. I love pushing my boundaries. I love creating, like, figuring out challenges in life that better you and going after them full force.
Yes, me too. Fantastic. Thank you for answering all these really deep questions. You've been able to like just open up so beautifully, and I'm ready for the last section of the show, which is the Scarlett Letter. I saw something that made me think of you, and this is from you. Aww, and then you can open it with this.
Wow. We got this. Here we go. All right. Ooh la la. Do I get to read it?
Yes.
Defined by no man, you are your own story, blazing through the world, turning history into her story. And when they dare to tell you about all the things you cannot be, you smile and tell them, I am both war and woman, and you cannot stop me. Oh my God, this is amazing.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Incredible. Wow. This is incredible. I love poetry, actually.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Beautiful.
And all the feels right now, like,
I know.
I'm gonna cry.
This is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I'm glad you made it here. I was so excited to have you. And to lighten up the mood, we got the very, very last thing, which is the mystery box.
Ooh.
And this is your parting souvenir.
I love surprises.
Yeah, just close your eyes, put your hand under, and let's see what you pull out.
Wow. All the feels. I feel like it's an animal.
Yes! Oh, it's a dinosaur!
It's an animal!
Any last words you have for your fans? Anyone that's gonna watch this?
Come to church.
Come to church.
Come to church. We believe, music is the way to unite the world and leave the world a better place.
You heard it from the Ministress, Alina herself. And we'll see you at the next church. When's the next one?
Sunday.
It's every Sunday, and
we switch between Saturdays and Sundays, but it's on our calendar.
And then people can find you guys on Instagram.
Church of Music SD.
All right, people. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and see you next Thursday.
Beautiful, wonderful.
Thank you.